So the next category is going to be the new media creatives. Now, they're tied again to artists, but I still want to kind of differentiate a little bit. Why? Because the new media creatives are all the people that have maybe worked in a design agency or have studied graphic design but are doing, more product design, UX design, strategy, accounts, all of these things, advertising, for instance, all of these media creatives, not necessarily art just for the sake of doing art, just for the sake of being authentic and showing something from yourself, but doing something that's more conceptual, that's something that is tied to commercial advertising. Now they're very important as well, because they're the ones that are going to create, maybe, I still don't have a lot of information about that, but I don't know why I feel called speaking about it. I come from a design background, and I actually worked in a design agency. So I believe that those people will not just keep on designing websites or apps or do the traditional sides of design and posters and all of that stuff, and billboards and ads and printed ads. So as we had newspapers in the past, now we have websites, we have apps. I think there's going to be a new media emerging that is going to be there for us to experience. I think it's going to be more experiential. I think it's going to be more immersive. I think it's going to be more related to our senses. And I'm not just speaking about those, glasses that people are using that are starting to emerge, which just puts a lot of data in your vision for no reason, and it's also taking in information from people's faces, and I don't want to get into that. We're going to talk about that on a separate video or on the next categories that have to do more with tech. However, I believe that the new media creatives are here to shape the commercial aspect. How do we actually create ads in the new earth? We still need some sort of commerciality when it comes to brands, even if it's a spiritual brand, even if it's a spiritual product, even if it's a spiritual company, venture, whatever it is. So, how do we do that? Now, I still don't know, but I'm just raising this name and this title in. And if that's you, maybe you have some ideas yourself, leave a comment below. We would love to get to know you. I would love to get to know you. So yeah, I think it's super important. I really believe that it's about creating more, an interesting platforms and immersiveness around experiences. All right, next up are the connectors. Now, again, a lot of these things, just like a side note, a lot of these things are already happening as we speak. It's not like, ooh, boom, there's a button and then everything is new. No, it takes like years and years of change, progress, consistency. And so the connectors are the ones that are here to connect. They're here bringing people together. There's a huge, massive loneliness epidemic, which I feel very close to. That's why I have more to say about this. Again, everyone is speaking and contributing from what they know and from what they've experienced, because you can't just do everything. There's a limit, or else you're probably, you could channel things through other people, but I'm not that sort of person. So anyhow, back to the connectors. The connectors are here to bring more live experiences, bring more platforms, like I mentioned before, new media that is going to emerge, new platforms, new creative, but they're here that are already bringing in communities. Now, the future is going to be micro communities. Micro communities meaning small communities that have something that is mutual to them. How do you know a community is good? Community is good by if people feel like they belong. And I'm not talking about countries, that's different. I mean, that's a whole community within itself. But I'm talking about community based on mutual interest, like I love music, or I love a certain type of music, or I'm into women, for instance, and LGBTQ, for instance, is a whole community. But I'm speaking more from heart-centered communities that are smaller than the bigger ones that we have experienced thus far. And so they're the ones doing different events, parties, gatherings, live performances, experiences, festivals, whatever it may be, even online. I'm not saying online is erased completely. I think back in the day we had the ability to feel a little bit more connected when the internet just started to emerge, like ICQ, for instance. I remember after school, I've been communicating on MSN Messenger or ICQ with some friends online. And it was like a thing that you would do every single day after school for 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and play video games and mostly talk to people. And you would talk to people from all over the world as well. Pen pal. And I think the world will be a smaller place. It's a small world after all. Remember the song from Disney? It's a small world after all. So I have more to say on this part. That's why I feel like my speech is becoming like faster, because I have more to say. And I'm building one of them myself. So more to come, of course. So if you are a connector, let me know. If you have this heartfelt center, or this, I wanted to speak also about centers that will be like healing centers, community centers. I think we'll see more of a rise of those, and more that are more branded and niched, as you can see already from different brands that are creating fitness and wellness clubs, especially in the US, that are happening. We can see that with gyms. Okay, gyms is something new that didn't happen from the last 20 years. This is something new. And then now we're crossing over to wellness clubs. And clubs, essentially just clubs, So more spaces for people to connect, more spaces for people to find something that they're interested, they're passionate about, and bringing more unity. Everything is connected about unity. Everything is all about unity, divine unity, and getting to know more people, getting raw. And that's why we'll see a rise of nostalgia in tech as well. And we're going to talk about that with the tech builders. But there's a separate video I'm making about tech and AI for the new earth. So stay tuned. All right, the next category is the conceptualists and futurists. The conceptualists and futurists, I don't have much to say yet, but I know a little bit about conceptualism and thinking more about the future. They are the people that are going to still push the envelope, and with all different fields and categories and realms, they're going to be the ones that that basically bring us more into the future in a way that, again, is aligned, in a way that is ethical. We're going to talk about the ethical part as well. That's a whole other group. However, it's important to mention, again, like I mentioned, a lot of these things are connected, because some of the groups are kind of merged, and some of them are working with each other. You just can't separate it in a box. It's really hard to do that. So what I'm saying is that those conceptualists are going to bring in more concepts, more stuff about the future, like flying cars, things about movies, anything that has to do with the future. How do we heal? They're the ones that are going to bring more technology, newer technology into the future. They're going to bring in new concepts, new ways of creating, new ways of healing. Just like we mentioned, flying cars is one of them, and so on and so forth. All right, I moved into the shade because it got super hot where I'm at. So the next category is the new tech builders. Now, the new tech builders are the ones that are here to support and bring in new technology and new types of healing and emotional technology. And I think there's going to be a rise of technology that is going to do better with connecting people, with bettering healing, bettering, the capabilities that we have, as long as they're ethical, of course, as long as they do more with the new earth, with not, dealing with, the trees and the plants, and not tampering with that, of course. So they're the ones that are quitting the old paradigm, which is just doing, productivity, which we see today. That's why I think AI is here, is mostly to get rid of all of the productivity jobs, of all of the jobs that have to do with the dirty work, with technology, with information, for instance, Excel sheets and all of those things. That's just an example, for instance, is just how do we create better, things, that technologies that can help people have more free time, have more leisure time to do all these other things and to become artists and to become whatever they are. So these tech builders some of them are going to kind of go out from the old and come into the new earth, and are going to bring in those new technologies and develop them, of course, and use technology and existing technology. Of course, we still have amazing technology right now on earth. So why not use it? Why not create those platforms that we were talking about before in other categories? And they're going to work very well together with a lot of the connectors, a lot with the new media creatives, a lot with the artists as well, new media artists as well. So they're the ones here, again, like I mentioned before, and I'm going to stress this again, are not here to create AI that replaces humans, right? Are here to actually help humans have more leisure time, but not take the humanity out of technology. So they're here to bring in more humanity, and even a rise in low-tech technology, a rise in nostalgia, a rise in low-tech technology. I'm saying that again because it's important, because not a lot of people understand that replacing humans with AI is not aligned with a new earth, because we don't want to replace humans. We're humans ourselves. Why would we do that? I think that's such a stupid idea. We want to essentially get rid of those old annoying jobs that make us sit 9 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, and we're just sitting in a chair and we are just hooked. We are hooked into our computers. Now, maybe there's going to be a new computer. We have quantum computing. We have all of these new things that are more interesting, or, kind of like a Jarvis even. That's another example. A Jarvis that is like a companion to humans, but doesn't take the role of the human creativity and doesn't, think for the humans. I believe that AI should not think for you. It should just be your assistant in a sense. And we already have those smart assistants like Alexa, for instance, and so on and so forth. So if you are a new tech builder or coming from the tech field and you have some ideas, leave a comment below. We would love to get to know you. I think there's so many interesting things that are going to come within this time, more from a spiritual perspective, more from a new earth perspective, more from a new era perspective. The next group is going to be ecologists and people that are into marine life and are into the earth and are into different kinds of, into the groundwork, and agriculture and all of that stuff. And how do we create better irrigation systems? And how do we actually create, a more sustainable future? Are into the ecology and the betterment of the earth that doesn't destroy the earth, because we still need an earth. We need a ground to stand on that is healthy, and we need to clean our water, and we need to have better food, cleaner food, and more food for people in Africa, for instance, or more cleaner water for people in Africa, or Wi-Fi and internet, in a lot of areas that are still way back in, back in the day, and are still stuck in a place where it's hard. It's really hard to live there. So they're the ones that are going to be cleaning the oceans and bringing in new technologies that have to do with plastic, for instance. Plastic is everywhere. It's in our water. So again, I'm not coming from that field as much, so I don't have as much information on that, but I do believe that there will be more a rise of a need. I think in every company, an ecologist, especially more ventures, more companies that have to do with the, the ecology and the environment. The next one is going to be the transportation builders. Now, they are similar to the construction builders because they are very much 3D, but they are mostly absorbed into the transportation. They're the ones that are going to build new transportation lines where we don't need a car anymore to get to point A and then to point B. From point A to point B, we we have already seen a lot of things and apps and platforms that are like Uber and Via, and and things where you have shared writing experiences, for instance, where you have autonomous writing, where you have a lot of more cybersecurity around mobile writing and all of that stuff. So they're the ones that are mostly securing the way how we transport ourselves from point A to B, and flying cars and all of that stuff, and maybe creating better ways of transportation, like no more asphalt. Maybe we don't need that anymore. So again, I'm not coming from this field. That's why this category is a little shorter than the rest. Leave a comment below if you guys are from that field and you have ideas of how to bring those technological changes and how to create a better world for ourselves, and how we can actually enjoy better writing experiences. Well, if you're still here, thumbs up, please, and subscribe to my channel. There's going to be more information coming in. But the last category is the ethical humanists. The ethical humanists who are here to safeguard, and gatekeep things that are, important with the ethical part with humanity, and that has to do with a lot of obsession with especially billionaires. I've seen a video recently of a billionaire injecting something into themselves that they should not be injecting, and now they have incurable disease. So again, things that should not happen, on a human level. Like, why would you do that? Things that have to do with information, with data, things that have to do with AI not taking the wrong path that we don't want to see, like Black Mirror and all that stuff. They're the ones that going to be mostly lawyers, I would say. I think if you're a lawyer, you might be drawn to this thing. Things that have to do even with humans, like orphanages and people and families, and bettering, laws for humanity and communities out there. So how can we actually create a more ethical way of living, ethical way of storing information, and things that are more agreeable to one another and do not harm us and come to the betterment of the new earth.